Welcome to Built with Grit. I'm your host and strategic partner in cost reduction, Luis Fernandez. And today I am joined by my friend Myles of 8 Miles Comfort Food. Myles, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate you having me here.
I'm excited for this conversation. I mean, I like to eat. And I love comfort food, and I'm really interested. I think the internet has made it possible for a lot more people to, start their businesses and do showcase their talents, and do so in a way that's delicious. And
Right.
so I'm a big supporter of that. I love delicious treats. I'd love to hear, kind of what what got you going on this and how the business got started.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the older I've gotten, the more I realize the impact of some of the earlier events in my life that put me in this direction. So, growing up, and this is going to sound pretty cliche, but I was surrounded by a family of foodies, right? Everyone cooked.
Mm.
Uh, all of my best childhood memories were like there's always food, right? Like if I remember anything, it's what I had on the plate that day, right? So like Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday for a reason. Uh, it's crazy. So I grew up around that, and then my parents would say, "Hey, if you love good food, you better learn how to cook."
Mm.
So from a pretty early age, I was
It's
introduced.
expensive otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I was taught a little bit here and there early on, right? Enough to like get by.
Mm.
Um, and but at that age, I'm play all the time. I don't want to cook. So, but it's in there. I just don't know it's there.
Yeah.
And then I got to college, and this is the first time being on my own. I'm like, I got to start making dining halls crap. I got to start making some meals.
I
So
don't know
I,
about you. I was really, really poor in college. Like I
oh
was
yeah,
I
ramen
was
noodle
really
diet.
poor. Like I've told my wife about it, and she's like, I thought I was poor, but you were poor, poor.
I remember my senior year. It's funny you say that because that was the most poor I ever been. I remember I had, I think it was $20 left, and I made it stretch 2 days. I had Little Caesars and McDonald's for every meal for 2 days. I'm like, I'm gonna make this work.
There was 39-cent taco day at a Taco Bell that was walking distance from my apartment. It was a
Mm,
little bit of a walk, but it was walking distance from my apartment. And every Sunday we would walk over there and get 39-cent tacos. And I'd buy like 20 of them. And
yeah,
then I'd eat for 2 days on like $5.
smart living. What can I say? You gotta do what you gotta do, especially like in college. You gotta get by,
Yeah. All
and
right.
you have an iron stomach then too, so it's easier.
Oh yeah. Oh, I could not do that.
Yeah, I'd be in the hospital if I tried that now. So yeah, so I started cooking. I got my first cookbook my senior year, and at that point, so funny, my first thing I ever cooked. So I had an internship, right, and it's the first time that I like had a paycheck, like a
Mm.
serious paycheck. And I went grocery shopping, and I was like, I'm gonna make barbecue sauce. I don't know why it was my first, but I love barbecue sauce. So like, I'm gonna make my own. And off the first try, it was really good. And I think
Mm.
that moment, I was like, okay, I like cooking, right? This is something I like doing. Um, and so like throughout the year, I would experiment different recipes here and there, but it's still college, so it's not a focus. I was in school for engineering, and engineering kicked my butt, so it was like all my time was dedicated to not failing out. Um, and then
I feel
it was
that.
hard. Yeah, it
I
was
started
hard.
as an engineer too. And
It's no joke, right?
no, no, it was not. And then chemistry kicked my ass,
Mhm.
and then September 11th happened, and I went and told my parents, like, actually what I told them was I was going to drop out of college and enlist in the military. My dad was like, no. And
Oh
then
man.
my grandfather called me. My grandfather's a Cuban refugee. And he called me and he told me the story. I'd heard it a bunch of times, how he had come to the United States. But when grandpa wants to tell the story, he tells the story, right? So
Right.
you let him tell the story, and then he tells me, okay, do you know why I just told you that? It's like, no, he said, well, you owe me. He's like, after everything I've gone through in my life, I did it so that my grandchildren will have the opportunities that is right in front of you right now. So you finish your college, and then after college, you can go, join the army and go to war. And so yeah,
Powerful.
yeah. And then I
Yeah.
changed my major to history because I wasn't going to do army.
You did a 180. You were like, I'm
Yeah.
not doing that.
So so you finished your engineering degree. What kind of engineering, by the way?
It was civil. It
Okay.
was civil. And so, I went back home looking for a job, all that stuff. But throughout that college experience, I had started to grow a passion for business. I don't know what it was about it, but just business. I ended up being a numbers guy, and I was like, I like business, so I got a minor in that. And then I knew I was going to do grad school. So, literally a week. This is going to sound nuts. A week after I graduated, I'm home. I started teaching myself accounting because I was like, I'm going to get a head start on grad school whenever that happens. I was just like, because I couldn't get, at that point, I was looking for a job. I wasn't getting any bites. So I'm like, I got to do something. So I just started learning accounting. And
Some people take up video games, but
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, let me look at accounting. That's crazy. So then I got a job in construction doing, project engineer stuff. Moved out to Harrisburg. And now this is the first time I'm not only out the house, but I'm alone, right? Because in college you're with people.
Mhm.
But now I'm in a new area by myself and I'm feeling like, okay, now it's like my grown up time. Now I can start like building on all this stuff. My second day on this job, I sat down in my cube and it was like 9:30 in the morning. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have to do this for like 40 years. I was like, I can't. I can't imagine. Like 40 years seems nuts. There's no way, because I'm like, I don't like. I mean, I didn't hate it, and it was a good
Me
job.
too.
I'm like, all right, but I can't do this for. There's no way. I was like, yo, my brain went. That is. I was 21. I'm like, that is your life up to this point times two. I'm like, I can't. So then, then I went into like, all right, now what am I going to do down the road? And I was like, I'm still going to do grad school. I had some still ideas around engineering, but I was starting to cook a lot more. Like I was in my kitchen every other night trying something new. Maybe a few months into doing all this stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start posting this stuff online. And
Mm,
this is 2012, 2013, before Instagram, what it was today. I mean, it was
yeah.
around, but it wasn't that big. So I started a food blog just to start putting recipes out there and showcase some of my stuff, and it people liked it. And I was like, okay, like I got something going here. So then I said, all right, now I'm going to create a cookbook. I don't know how. I'm just going to just do it, see what happens. And
That's I love that so much because that is truly like if you want to know what entrepreneurism is, it's I'm gonna do this. I don't know how, right?
exactly,
But I'm gonna do it, right? Like that's how you gotta figure. It's just like riding a bike, right? Like I could tell my
yeah,
kids about the bike. You got to get on the bike. That's how you're gonna learn, and that's really the I don't know how, but I'm gonna figure it out.
exactly. And this is like it's still we're at the height of the internet, but not where it is today, right? Like you don't have as many connections, so I'm just on Google. Like, all right, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And so what that led to was I was surfing and this is probably I'll remember this for the rest of my life. It was a Friday night and I was looking for recipe contests online. I came across this thing that said calling all food network calling all home chefs to a Food Network show. Apply here. So I was like, I looked at it. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I put a tweet out and the tweet said like, but the link said like, wouldn't this be crazy if I did it? And then one of my best people, she's family, she responded and said, just do it, and the next day I was like, yeah, you're right. So I applied, actually got on the show, which was crazy in itself.
Which
And
show?
it was called America's Best Cook. It was like a new show
Okay.
in 2014. And I did horribly. I was went over like, way over my head. I did not belong in that show, but they casted me correctly, right? They casted me as the underdog, like the young underdog, and that's what I was. And I fit it perfectly. I came in and I did horrible. Um, but it was a really cool experience. And I came home from that, and in my head, I was like, okay, food. Like somehow I need to make food work as a business. And I have been experimenting with some different types of barbecue sauce, and I already had some positive feedback on it. So I got home from the show, and it was like, all right, now it's the time. And I launched 8 Miles maybe a year later or
Hmm,
so.
okay.
That was the start.
uh, so what made you it looks like primarily it's this mac and cheese thing. Is that what you started off with?
I started out with barbecue sauce.
Okay.
Um, was doing that for a couple of years. moved to DC just because it was a bigger market and I wanted to experience something new,
Hmm.
a bigger metropolitan area, and was doing it in DC for about a year or so. Um, but was starting to realize that sauce doesn't move too quickly, right? It's one of those things where if you put it on a grocery store shelf, like as a consumer, you might not buy barbecue sauce, but once every like twice a year or whatever the case
Right.
might be. So I'm like, all right, my sauces are good. Mind you, I still am clueless to most stuff, right? I'm just winging it as I go, and I'm like, all right, this is not working. I'm in year three. Um, what can I do different? And I was doing these food markets and these like farmers markets, and what I realized things that moved the most at these places were items that people could eat on the spot,
Hmm.
like empanadas and different, anything that you can gobble up. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start bringing food and putting the sauce on it. And as I did that, people were like, and I did it with mac and cheese because I was always making mac. I love mac and cheese and comfort food, so I started doing that, and people were like, "Yo, you need to make this for your company, like this mac and cheese." And it was like light bulb. I was like, "Oh man,
Light
okay,
bulb.
I could do that." So I decided to do a little bit of a pivot and focus on the mac and cheese, and that was like 2018.
So that's awesome, by the way. I think it's really cool that, one that you've got like these spin-off ideas from one from the next. Um Also, you don't look like somebody that eats a whole lot of mac and cheese. I'm just saying, like I don't know if I could trust a chef that's, fit. Right? It's
I mean, if it wasn't for my morning routine, like my rigor, I'd be huge. I mean, it's like I gotta balance it out.
just throwing that out there, So, one of the things that from do you have like a factory that you're producing these at, or like um how are you getting it out there?
So I use a shared kitchen space. So it's me and 30 or 40 other companies that use the space, and it's pretty big. And I'm making everything at night, well, night and day now, but it used to be at night. So when I was in PA, I was using a culinary kitchen that was like a school for kids. I was in there like twice a week after work from like 6 to 8, 6 to 9.
Hmm.
I moved to DC. That I was doing the same thing, but in a larger space in DC. Ended up being like maybe 3 times a week. Uh, and then once I started to grow, that frequency like picked up where it was like 5 days a week. But yeah, it's a pretty big spot. You pay a monthly rent, and then you just push product out of there.
Yeah. Now all of the packaging and stuff. This is the stuff that, I see also, and maybe a lot of folks don't kind of notice, right? Like the thought that goes into and every detail of this product, right? Like
Yeah,
the colors that you're going to choose on the website, how you're going to present it, and all the background. Let's not even like go into all the background of the website, but like the packaging and the storage and the shipment, like all of this
yeah,
stuff. And so, you say I went from barbecue sauce to macaroni and cheese. That doesn't sound like a huge pivot, but it is an absolutely massive.
yeah,
Barbecue sauce can sit on the shelf. Like you can go on a weekend and work forever and, make all of this. That mac and cheese ain't gonna hold forever.
yeah. It was a whole switch, like you said. Like I had to almost start from scratch. I had a brand, but I had to switch up the message, develop new packaging, like you said, figure out how to do frozen. Like this is a whole new thing. And it's funny you say like what people don't realize. Like, we're in a grocery store like shelf, like everything there is a psychological experiment. It's like that person behind it is trying to get your attention. Like they don't
Yeah.
just do it in like Canva and just say, all right, cool. Like they just like I spent months picking colors and like message, and then I did it again like a year later, and then like it's always changing. Um, so you're right, man. I appreciate it now, where if something catches in my eye, I'm like, yo, y'all did a good job.
Yeah. My wife knows, like we'll walk around and I'll stop and I'll start looking. She's like, okay, what is it? Like I already see like you're seeing something about this. I'm like, okay, so here's the process, right? Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no, for sure.
I'm just seeing all these steps. So you go from this sauce to this frozen food and stuff. And you said you had to start from scratch, and I believe it, right? Like I can imagine all of these things that are now changing, that are new. Um, how do you and also it sounds like you were all are or were still working a day job at the same time.
Yeah, I still am. It's nuts. Yeah, it's crazy.
Miles,
I
bro.
know. I know. Yeah, it's
That is
dangerous.
absolutely bonkers. Uh,
Yeah, it's nutty. It's nutty. So I was working a full-time job until 2016. When I actually moved to DC, I quit my full-time job maybe 2 months in and was like, I'm gonna do 8 miles full-time. Like I was ready. I'm like, I'm gonna blow this thing up. But I didn't focus on the right stuff at the time. I think I was, and I tell people I was attracted to like the allure of being an entrepreneur. Like that's my only job. The freedom what came with it. There's a funny the thing that I realized all right, I'm not doing this right. My second day, my first day doing this full time. I'm super excited. I said, listen, I'm gonna wake up at 8 o'clock, because I was waking up at 4:30 before. So I can sleep in, wake up at 8, make an actual good breakfast, and then just work. Let me tell you, I woke up, did that, sat back in my room and took a nap at like 9 a.m. because I was tired. And so after that, I'm like, I'm not doing this right. Like
mm,
I liked the freedom, but I wasn't applying my time as it should. So I ended up going back into full-time work maybe 6 months later. And that's actually around the time that I started doing the mac and cheese too.
wow. Okay, and you're still doing it. So
Yeah.
this is kind of an interesting. It was a few months ago. I put a poll up about the entrepreneur like kind of steps in your business, right? That it's not, and I think I say this almost every podcast. It's not like a straight line, right? Like there reaches a point, and then to go to the next, it's a step up. Like you have
Yeah.
to jump. It's I gotta quit a job, right? And then the next jump is I gotta hire somebody. Right?
Yeah.
Then it's not just I need to hire support staff, right?
Yeah.
It's I got to hire a CFO now, and I need a real an accountant, right? Like these are like leaps forward.
Exactly.
Now I'm expanding to another location. It's another kind of massive leap. Um, so it's interesting, that you made that and then realize. So it seems like to me, from what you're saying, is that what you need is the pressure in order to perform.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I realized that later, like not too long ago. When I have all the time in the world, I'll slow down. But like working the full-time job, like really puts me in a position like I gotta really press hard on this, which from a health standpoint is not great because it's mad stressful. But like I get a lot done.
So what about you mentioned your morning routine there. What is your morning routine? Are you still getting up at 4:30 in the morning?
About 4:45 or so, 5 o'clock. And so I switch on and off. I try to work out five times a week, but because of how crazy things have been, I have to do mornings. It's the only time I can do it. So I wake up, I wake up, work out, and then I got to be at my daytime job by about 7. So I'll do that from 7 to 5 or so, and then I switch to 8 miles. So it's like I separate my brain to 8 miles in my other job.
Mm,
Sometimes they clash, which sucks. But I got to do both at this point. So,
mm.
and I'm in a position now where like I work 7 days a week, right? Because like, there's no point in almost besides working out where there's a break in there. And now because 8 miles is so close to getting to that next level, I'm like even more motivated. It's like, okay, I just need to do that one more thing,
Yeah.
and I'm in a better position. And then I can, then we can see what happens progression wise. But it's close.
I think that's awesome. And, I'm also an early riser. And for a lot of the same reasons, because I was doing the same thing. Was I had, a full-time job, and then I was doing, this consulting deal, and then I got little kids,
Mm.
and, I want to be there with them at
Yeah,
night. And so it was like, do I really want to work from 7 to 4 and then go to the gym? And
yeah.
not get home till after dinner time, right? Like, nope. So 4 a.m. it is, right? Like,
And I don't know about you, but like there's that period after the workout where I feel amazing, where I
Yeah.
like it's still like it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, but I'm like good to go.
Yeah.
And then I crash at like 11. I'm like, oh, I should have done that. But before that, I feel great.
I am a sleepy boy by like 9. If you catch me after 9:30, that's rare, like
Same. Yeah, my eyes are red. I'm half asleep by 9:30.
no, it's wild, right? But I mean, for some people, it works opposite. Like I have friends on the East Coast that will call me in the morning because they know I'm awake, and they're still going from the night before. Like, dude, y'all
Wow,
are wild, man. Like
that's
this,
crazy.
yeah, I've gotten calls and I'm like, what time is it over there? I'm like, oh, it's like 3 in the morning.
My buddy texted me yesterday, and he like, maybe around 9:20, or he called me. I texted him back and said, "Nah, bedtime." Sorry.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, so you go now. Are you taking mostly orders from individuals, or are you selling to stores? Like, what is the strategy for you?
It's all stores right now.
Okay.
Being frozen, shipping direct is not in the playbook. We're working on it, but it's not active yet.
Yeah.
So we sell to. So we just launched in Target last May, about 240 locations in the Northeast. So when you're talking about like steps, that was like our biggest one to date. Because before that, we were selling to Whole Foods, bunch of other accounts too on the East Coast, but nothing with the Target name, right? So um, that was a huge leap, and it really got us into because that forced us to scale production, and I had to bring in a team to help out in the kitchen, and like it got me involved in a lot of things I hadn't gotten involved with yet that put me in a position to not only scale but raise money to scale.
Yeah. So how did you get now this one's interesting because I know there are folks, and I know there are folks inside of my network that are they're doing similar products, right?
Right.
How do you get that meeting to have that conversation? Like who are you looking to connect with? And how does that go?
So this is something that I learned over time. Like, when I was Mr. Naive, I was like, cool, I'm gonna hop online, find the person, email them, be like, hey, check this out. Like it doesn't really work that way.
Okay.
There's a really strict, like for your big box, there's like a strict timeline.
Mm,
Um and there's two ways you go about it, and I've done both. So with Whole Foods, they like I got in touch with one of their distributors and forged a relationship with a distributor who then could present on my behalf to like I was there, but they gave him kind of a heads up, right? So that's good because it gets you like I know him kind of like you get that connection.
yeah, referrals
Um,
are always better. Yeah.
yeah, so that's probably the most used method of using a distributor to get leverage to talk to the buyer at the store. The other way, and nowadays there's a lot of I'll call it pay for play options where like certain platforms that host meetings with buyers and you have to pay to have that meeting. That's another way that's really popular now too.
Mm,
But then you also got that whole luck thing. And I'm not the luckiest guy in the world, but for this case, I did. End of 2019, I get an email, or I'm sorry, a LinkedIn message from Target, one of the buyers, and he's like, "Hey, we're doing trend shopping in DC, and we found your brand on the shelf. Want to talk?" And I'm like, "This is fake. Like this is spam. Ain't no way Target is like reached out to me." So, but obviously ended up being real. I'm
yeah.
super hyped. I'm like, "Oh my god, this could be it." And then from that, it was about a year of talking with them, like presentations, and because they only bring in new products once a year, so you have to wait till that time hits.
Okay.
Um, Now, there's going to be exceptions, right? If you have like a crazy good product that's like crushing the game, I'm sure you can there's a way around it. Or if you just are really, really tight with like the owner of the company. But your big box guys are like, hey, our buyers review all products this month. If you want to be considered, get in touch with the buyer, find out how to submit your product.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you find the buyer?
That's
Do
the
they-
hardest part.
Okay.
Through distributors, right?
Okay.
Because or you know what, but you know what? Another strategy is LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Because most of the buyers are on LinkedIn, but you got to come correctly because These guys get a ton of messages, probably on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's the same way the store managers get a lot of people coming in with product, being like, check this out, check out my sample. Um, so you got to be consistent, right? Like, use a distributor, use a broker if you can find a broker that you can hire that can do that already has a relationship, and then do your own research too. Like you might need to talk to the assistant buyer first, and then work your way up.
Yeah. No, that's awesome advice, by the way. For somebody that's looking to get into the store. What are some of the the things that'll put you over the edge, or things that'll get you, what's the word for not considered? Disqualified. Sorry. I was like, why? I just had a brain.
Not knowing what not knowing what gives you your edge, right? You got to stand out, because buyers, they get, I don't know how many submissions they get, but it's got to be hundreds, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be able to wow them, like either if it's on price, if it's on just your branding, or whatever the case might be. You got to come with something that's going to make you different.
Yeah.
If you that's number one. And if you come not knowing like what your price should be, and like if you're just not well equipped to handle, like, without the knowledge, they know it, right? They're not going to give you the time of the day. Like for us, it took me 3 pitches to get in Whole Foods, because I didn't have my stuff together. Like I thought I did, but I didn't. And every time I pitch, I learned something new. Like, okay, I got to work on that. Until the third time, it was like, okay, now I got a good product for them to bring in.
Yeah. No, that's important. I think, I can imagine they're not gonna do the research for the customer. They're gonna want you to tell me, what is the
Exactly.
demographic, what do they look like, who's buying this, what else do they buy,
Yep.
what are the reasons for buying this product, what gets them excited about it, what is the price point, and then
Yeah.
how much are you willing to pay to, or how much are you willing to sell it to me
That's a
for?
big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All about the money.
what
And
what
then,
are my margins going to be on this product?
yeah. And then two, it's best if you already are selling to stores, and it can be small stores, but they want to see traction, right? Like
Hmm.
they're going to ask you, who are you selling to right now? If you say no one, put you at a disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to say like, hey, I'm selling to these 25, 30 stores, and they're buying one case a week. That gets them excited, because then they're like, I can hop on that train and be generating the same type of revenue for the
Yeah.
stores.
Now, how do you go to, you said, what was it, 150 or 450 stores?
I mean, just anything, right? You could say, oh, you mean the targets?
Yeah.
Oh, 240.
240. I wasn't even close. All right. And so how do they pick, like, what stores is that because of your customer demographics, or is it just like a test, like before you make it?
Yeah, so that's what, to a Target, they're really good about this, and most retailers are. I think they're gonna come to you and say like, what's your capacity, right? And if you're smart, you'll say, at this time I can only produce in the Northeast, right? Which is good, because if you try to go national right out the bat, there's so much money it takes to market it across the country, ship it. You'll go broke. And so
Mm.
retailers actually like it when you're honest and say like, hey, I want to like start here, crush it, and then take that success and expand. Um, but hey, if you have the capital and the marketing to hit national right off the bat, I mean, good for you. It's a lot harder, especially if you're a small business. It takes a lot more effort, and there's a lot more room to fail doing it that way.
So what is your strategy now? Like, you got Target and Whole Foods kind of under your belt.
Yeah.
Are you ready to expand this thing and make it so guys like me in Arizona can get some mac and cheese, or like what's it?
So yeah. So right now, we're gonna go to the Midwest. It's gonna probably happen in October, November. We're also switching production to a co-packer,
Mm.
so that we can get some more capacity. And we're also ramping up our marketing efforts. So we're trying to do it all at the same time, right?
Right.
We want to increase our sell through in the Northeast, expand to the Midwest, do the same thing, and then use that to go down south, out west, throughout the course of next year and the following year.
All right. So you're telling me I gotta wait a year at least.
Maybe,
Maybe.
right? Who knows?
Now, but I also like, I'm curious now that you've successfully, and now are you already selling on in Target? They're
Yeah.
they're already on the shelves there.
Yep.
So now if you want to open up and have a conversation with somebody else, like I assume that your clout has got to be just, I mean,
Yeah. That's even more so than the sales. I mean, the sales are like it's good, but just like for investment and for a retailer saying, "Hey, I'm currently in Target," that takes it to a whole new level, right? Then you become a still obviously still a small business, but now it's like small business with traction and projections, right?
right,
So a retailers would be because Target's the model, right? It's like them in Walmart. Most retailers, if you're in them, they're like, why would I not bring you in? So
right.
it definitely helps.
Yeah. So at what point, are you looking to get your own factory space and start doing this thing, kind of level it up? Like what is the trigger for you? And maybe for somebody else to understand, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because you are definitely on the cusp of that next level step, right? Like you're talking about ways of expanding your capacity in this
Right.
shared space. There's only so much expansion that you could do in that shared space, and
Yeah,
this
man.
that next step is having your own space. Like this is a big jump. What are some of the triggers for you in that?
Um, Fine. So we're gonna go co-packer. So we're gonna have someone make it for us, and it's finding the right relationship for that because it's not easy because you have to have someone that can produce how you want it. That's not going to want you to produce 1 million units as a minimum, and at the price you want, and the location. So I've been hunting now for about 6 to 8 months, and I think we found one. Knock on wood, but it's this is going to be between now and end of the year is pretty much going to be probably the most important time for the business because we're actually in the middle of raising money and we need that money to be able to keep producing for Target and other folks down the road to market it, and actually bring in a team because I need some other people to help out. So if once if all goes to plan, this will all happen at the same time. Like we'll hit our milestone investment goal. We'll start co-packing, and then we'll be adding more stores throughout the Midwest, and hopefully pick up another key retailer throughout the process. So it's this winter is like when everything could happen.
Nice. That's pretty exciting, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm
how do
nervous,
you
but
feel, man? Like you're saying it so calm. Like this is a big deal.
because it floats in my head 24/7, so like, all day. So funny man, I tell you, this is like it's funny when I think about this moment. So I got in Target, right, and producing for Target, that first order was nuts. 2020, we probably made in total, I don't know, 15,000 units of mac and cheese, which sounds like a lot, but over the course of an entire year, it's pretty modest. For Target's first order, we made like 12,000 in the course of like 5 weeks.
Woo.
And so,
Did you take vacation?
so that's the funny part. So like, I remember, so and like throughout this is 2 weeks of just hell because it's everything that could have went wrong because we never made so much before.
Yeah.
And so the last day that order went out, I can't explain how tired I was because I had taken off work for about 4 days to do this, but I still was working the other days while still, it's just
Yeah.
all kind of crazy. Um, the day, so I remember I'm at the kitchen, it's like 3 o'clock, the last pallet goes out. And I'm like, holy hell, it's done. And I said, I want to do one thing. And I went, picked up a pizza, went home, cracked a beer, and watched a movie. Like that was my celebration. Like it was like 2 hours of just silence and like pizza, beer. And I was just like in a happy place. Like, oh. Yeah. So I'd never been so happy getting a pizza, man. I went into the store and I was so excited. I told the guy, I was like, "This is my celebration pizza." It was nuts.
I mean, that's so cool and amazing. And, you know, you say it's so nonchalant, right? Like 3 o'clock. I assuming that was the AM 3 or the PM 3.
So this is PM3 after working 16, 17-hour days for like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, it's absolutely wild, man. It, it's hard to understand like the level of risk that folks are taking and, you know, just the sheer grit that it takes. Like, you were still you got this order from Target. You're still I probably would have quit, man. Like I got that order from Target. I walked into a job the next day and be like, hey y'all, I got into Target. Peace.
I'm out of
I'm
here.
out of here.
Yeah, that thought crossed my mind. Trust me.
All right. So somebody that's behind you in the journey, kind of earlier in the journey. You said you had to pitch to Whole Foods at least 3 times to kind of figure this
Right.
out. What is it about a pitch that in your mind did you get the first round go with Target or you had to go
Yeah.
multiple? Yeah.
First round go with them. Branding is big. I ended up refining the brand in late 2019, going into 2020, because it didn't make sense what I was doing. I thought it did, but then when I look at like who was buying it versus who I was selling to, like who I was pitching to or who I was marketing to, they didn't align.
Hmm.
My customers told me who I should be pitching to.
Hmm.
So I'll give you an example. When I started the brand, my whole goal was, all right, it's going to be a laid back, casual, fun brand that's really tailored towards college kids and young adults. Like they love mac and cheese. It's frozen. It's easy. Cool. But what I realized after like a couple of years of doing it, my main customer were moms that wanted something easy for their child.
Hmm.
Because every time I would do a demo, it's always a mom buying my product. And that's when it clicked of like, okay, I should put them as my main target audience because they're the ones that love the product. So I think doing something like being able to pivot and shift the message that way, and just refining the product itself, right? Knowing which attributes to call out and really present. I think all were things that I learned over the course of years to a point where I was, okay, this is a comfortable pitch. This is what buyers want. This makes more sense. And then knowing what buyers look for was also helpful too.
Mm. You really like taking the time to really understand the customer.
Yeah,
Really
I used to
important.
be against it, to be honest. I always used to be like, everyone likes mac and cheese, so yeah. But like, unfortunately, I mean, it might be kind of true, but not everyone's going to buy frozen mac and cheese. So
Yeah.
you know, every product and brand has a very specific audience, like every single one.
Right.
Like if you look in your room, you're like, okay, this is tailored toward this type of person. And so once you define that, it's a lot easier to go about it.
Uh, Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I get frustrated now because, I talk to a lot of businesses and a lot of business owners and upcoming folks, and it's just my strategy and it's what I have to do. I'm in B2B, right? Like, so I gotta talk to these folks, and there are a few things that'll make me like turn off faster than someone saying, "Oh, anybody can use my product." Nah, man. I had a guy one time was selling some legal services or something, and he told me that. And I was like, man, no lawyer's not gonna buy it. Well, no lawyers aren't. I was like, okay, how about a corporation that has a team of lawyers on it? They're not gonna buy. Oh yeah, they're not gonna buy it. How about an individual, a single mom? She ain't gonna. Yeah, you're probably right. Well, she could. I was like, she ain't gonna buy your product, man. Come on now.
Yeah, nah, you can't look at it that way.
So tell me about like who that's I think really important to understand. Not everybody walks into Whole Foods.
Exactly.
Who's
Exactly.
and if you're going to sell it in Whole Foods, is it the same person that's going to buy it in Target?
Exactly.
Right? Like, and if you get into Walmart, is that going to be the same person? Are you going to add a SKU, one for Target and one for Walmart and one for Whole Foods? You know, like is that part of the strategy? You know, like these are things that absolutely have to be taken into consideration. And I think if I was a buyer for Walmart or something, I'd say, okay, that's great. But the people walking into Whole Foods don't always walk into our store. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, you look at it like the shopper at Whole Foods, 9 out of 10 times is going to flip and look at the ingredient panel. The shopper at ShopRite, maybe 4 out of 10 times going to do that. But the shopper at ShopRite is going to look at the price and think, whereas maybe the Whole Foods buyer is not going to look at the price as much and think. So it's like you have to target a specific way, which makes it really hard. Because I tell you what, I think years and years ago, the thought was you can either go conventional or specialty, right? If you're in Whole Foods, you can't be in Walmart. But over time, that started to combine because these big players realized I got it. Some people do shop at both, and I got it. Yeah, exactly. Like depending on how I'm feeling,
yeah,
where I'm like I'm feeling good. I want to ball out. I'm gonna go to Whole Foods today. Or
right.
Sundays I'm like I don't need to save some money. I'm gonna go to Giant. So
Yeah. We went to Sprouts the other day because there's another guy on LinkedIn. He sells midday squares. And I found out there were in a Sprouts nearby. And I was like, oh, let's go there. And I'm there and I'm like, we never go to Sprouts. First off, it's not like really close to me.
yeah,
And second, it's a lot of money, right? So I don't always, I got 5 people in my household. So
it adds up.
yeah, I spend at least $25 a meal,
Yeah,
and, we could get to like $3 a plate. Like that's great, but we're still spending $15 a meal, right?
right.
You tell my finance guy, like I do my number, like,
Same way. Same way.
figure out the cost of like if I'm gonna eat at home. But I'm walking around there and I'm like, hey, there's some good stuff in here, like
I know it. I'm the same way. I feel good when I shop there, except when I pay, and I'm like,
yeah.
that's why I don't come here too often.
Like throwing shit into the cart. Hey.
Yeah, it feels good till you ring it up.
And let's take this one off right here. Let me put
Mhm.
this one back. Just put it off to the side. You can put it in that cart over there that you got. That you take all.
Yeah, I don't need that right now.
So now when you get a contract with somebody like that, do they handle the distribution as well, or do you have to figure that out yourself?
It depends. So with Target, they use a distributor different than who I was using. So I had to establish a new relationship with a new distributor, which is fine. But then from what I understand, like Walmart, they do their own. So once you establish a relationship with Walmart, you don't have to go to like a KE or UNFI. I think. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And then for your small, maybe, and like I use Rainforest as a distributor and I use KE. So if there's a customer that already uses them and it's easy, right? Because I'm just adding more product to my distributor.
Sure.
So it depends on the retailer.
One other thing that kind of occurred to me there is, do you wait for your capacity before you make that sale, or do you just go make that sale and then figure out the capacity after?
That's hard. So normally I'm working on like with my distributor, it's usually like smaller chains. So I can just keep adding and adding and adding. But when I look at things like Target, when I found out they said yes, right? I was like, okay, how long would it take me to make something for this? And luckily I was barely able to do it, but I did it. But that let me know I can't add any more big retailers until I get a bigger space.
Hmm.
I don't want to be caught up and I can't make it. They say bring it on. I say I can't, and then that relationship is ruined.
Yeah. Right.
So you can and this is what I was saying earlier, be very honest to these retailers about how much you can produce. Because if you tell a Walmart, let's go national, they might be like, cool, let's do it. But now you're stuck.
I want 1 million.
Yeah, give me 1 million units. And you're gonna be like, wait. And they're gonna look at you funny, like, why'd you say you could? They gotta be careful. Because it's like, because at the end of the day, your brain is gonna see the revenue sign, like, oh my God, that's 300 grand. That's more I've ever made for this company in one PO.
Yeah.
But it's gonna cost you 250 grand to make it. You got that money?
Right.
You're not gonna get paid for 30, 45 days. Can you front $250,000 and wait for that payment, like, because that's how some people go broke or bankrupt, because they burn all their capital, and then during that wait period, someone else might be like, "Hey, let's place an order," and then you're going to be like, "I can't produce for you guys. I don't have any money."
Mm.
So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's it's certainly a difficult balance, in understanding, making that. I think that's really key what you said about, um, I, being honest about what you can produce. And I can imagine that's difficult to do, right?
Yeah,
Because I want to say yes. Like, oh man, I like that big paycheck.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
you're
It's like
gonna.
going to a job interview, right? And they're like, "We are you willing to work overtime?" You're gonna be like, "Of course, all every day." And then you start working overtime. You're like, "Crap, why'd I agree?"
You can get that all the time.
Yeah,
There's like memes about it too. Like, when I see the overtime check, and then when I'm complaining about my check, and my manager's like, "Hey, do you want to work overtime?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm
no,
good."
I'm cool. Nope. Yeah, for sure.
So, if you were gonna give, you've actually given a bunch of great advice now. Like with the sauces thing, and by the way, you could probably go national with the sauces, because that's something you know you can manage that.
Yeah,
You know, just throw that out there. Add
I
another
thought
cup,
about
another great. Yeah,
it.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Like, hey, since you guys got the mac and cheese, you can add the sauces.
Guess what?
Speaking
Yeah.
of which, how did you come up with the name 8 Miles?
Um, I it's actually kind of a mystery. So I do remember I had a list of names that I was trying to pull from and just trying to do some creative. Um, I think I must have just recently watched the movie 8 Mile,
Yeah.
and I like the movie, and I remember saying that's kind of catchy, and I'm like, oh, one of my friends actually might help me, and I was like, 8 Mile sounds like it'd be a really cool name, and what I'll do is I'll make 8 different sauces to make it actually make like it means something,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. So you just need 8 SKUs. That's what I was going to tell you. You just need,
Working on
eight of
eight.
something, right?
Yep. Working on eight.
Oh, that's awesome. So if you were going to give some advice to somebody right now um, who wants to get their product and get it in all those stores, right? Like there's a certain process, and you want to prove things out first off. Like, what would you tell them to get, the kind of the key steps, right? Like, you went from the thing you're creating, now you're gonna, what stores you're gonna start with, and how you're gonna move up to the point where you can stand in a meeting with that target guy and confidently sell your product.
Yeah. So in the beginning, and this is one thing that I did, which is really important. If you've got a product idea or even like a prototype, go to a store with the idea or prototype that you want to sell in and see if there's competition, what makes yours different. Because that's what you're going to hang your hat on. Whether that's price, whether that's attribute, whatever it might be, if you want to figure out how you're going to fit in, and if it's unique and it's brand new, then what's it going to take for you to educate the public why they haven't seen this yet?
Mm,
Because there's a lot of people that have like, hey, like there's nothing like this before. It's like, well, maybe there's a reason because no one knows about it. So now you have to educate, which can be expensive.
mm,
Um, and then know like there's a list of like the top 10 reasons why people buy products. Like know where you fit in there. Like number one is weight loss. Like that's number one reason people buy certain types of products. Um, one of my favorite examples of that is Halo Top. So Halo Top, the ice cream brand,
yep.
they started out saying that I think their ice cream was high in protein, and people were like, we don't care about that. And then they figured out through marketing and research that their ice cream is actually lower calories than anyone else. So they didn't say we will help you lose weight. They just made you believe it by slapping on how many calories is on the front. And that
Yep.
number seems so low, the brain goes, oh my God, I can eat that and be okay.
Yeah.
So, like, if you, and like, you want to make like the consumer talk to the brand without you having to do it yourself.
Right.
So, like, my number one advice is like, know how you're going to fit or actually fit in or stand out, and spend a lot of time testing the product with like your smaller markets, because you'll get feedback from the stores, from the people that shop there, and then and then don't be afraid to refine your product. Like it's like, all brands change up their product. Like every single brand goes through iterations. So don't be afraid to do it early, so you'll save money by not having to do it later.
That's awesome. That's really outstanding. So if somebody wants to, well, I assume there's people that can go to a store right now and pick it up. Do you have a store locator on your website?
Yeah, so there's a map on there and it shows you it's all, northeast right now, but if you
Okay.
go there, you can type in your address and it'll tell you the closest spot to get it.
All right. So 8miles.com, 8miles.com, and then where to buy. Put in your little zip code up there, and it'll tell you where to pick this up.
Yeah.
How else can somebody reach you, or how else can we help you out and get the word out about what you got going on?
Yeah, so it's I'm on Instagram, instagram.com/8miles LLC. Same handle for Facebook. The website, like you mentioned, 8miles.com. We're on Twitter, but we don't really use it. I'm a one-man band, so I can't use all the socials
Yeah.
as efficiently as I really want to. Yeah, that's the best way to reach us. I'm on LinkedIn myself. As just search my name, Myles Powell. One of the things I'm trying to do, and I think you've noticed, is I'm trying to really show like what it is to be an entrepreneur, not just successes, right? Because like you scroll through, it's always like,
Yeah.
I'm proud to say, okay,
Yeah.
congrats,
I'm
proud to say,
humbled by.
I'm humbled by, and then meanwhile I'm over here like, oh, like this sucks, And so I want to make sure that people know that, hey, like it's very fulfilling to do this kind of thing, but it's super hard, and you're gonna have a lot of ups and downs. Like you might have more downs than ups, right? And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of people start doing this and they expect it to be like smooth,
Hmm.
they'll crush it and kill it, and then once they start hitting these rough patches, they start to crumble because they had these, like they thought it was something it's not, and they think that, hey, it's an overnight success kind of thing. No, it's just when you read about that brand, they've been working at it for 4 or 5 years. They
Right.
just they just didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just showcase from a mental, physical state, everything involved, like what we go through as entrepreneurs to really try to build a brand.
I absolutely love it. And I always tell people you got to get on LinkedIn. I know that the cool stuff right now is like TikToks and other, which may work for you.
Yeah.
Uh, but as far as like getting organic reach and engagement and getting in front of people, I fill a stadium uh, you know, once or twice a week with folks, and I don't pay for it. Right.
Mm,
That's free marketing. So
right.
and I get to meet people like you, right? Like
Absolutely.
and hear awesome stories. So man, hey, thank you so much
For
for
sure.
taking the time and being with us. And yeah, go if you're in one of those areas, go out there and check it out, and then post about it and let people know
Please, please, yeah.
for sure.
Spread the
Yeah.
love, spread the love. Now I appreciate it. I love doing this. You got, and just these conversations actually really help me out because it's like I get the chance to brain dump and just like unleash all these thoughts that are kind of all tangled in there. So it's cool, man. I like doing it. Thanks for having me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you.